The US-based short seller, remember, Hindenburg Research published a damning report on Adani Group, calling it, and I quote, largest con in corporate history ahead of the group's follow-on public offering. Now, Adani was forced to call off its FPO. Since then, the group lost $145 billion in market cap and Gautam Adani tumbled off the rich list. Subsequently, Adani Group has recouped part of its losses, but more importantly, the company's financials look very strong. Adani Enterprises, in its last quarter result, reported over 2-year-fold year-on-year rise in consolidated net profit for the quarter that ended March of 2023 to 722 crore rupees. Now, revenues from operations also increased 26% year-on-year. So financially, Adani Group looking very strong despite allegations and some very serious damning allegations that were made by Hindenburg report, the Hindenburg short seller. We are, of course, discussing how Adani Group's AGM panned out today. What were the key areas and points of discussion? With me at this point in time, joining is Srinath Sridharan, who is a independent markets commentator. Very shortly, we'll also have Sriram Subramaniam, who's the founder and MD of InGovern. Srinath, thank you very much for taking time out this afternoon. I want to begin by asking you, it appears that despite all those allegations, Adani Group has come out very strong.
A lot of its greenfield companies are still on the rise. I mean, for example, the renewable. I mean, for the next probably 2 decades, they're going to count the cash till cows come home. But what has been surprising is that the speech also mentioned about SEBI and Supreme Court having given clean chit. The entire case and the narrative about at Supreme Court is not about clean chit to them. It is about checking whether the regulators are actually covered all their bases. So from that perspective, the case is still not done. Supreme Court has asked SEBI to come back. So I think it has been used out of purpose and proportion there. But coming back, I think all their infra businesses are heavy capex driven businesses. How will they scale it up? I think the next 2-3 years, they will have to recoup all their business strategy. And I think these are all sunrise sectors. So that's a good thing going for Adani. All sunrise sectors will keep scaling for the next 10 years at least. But what about the cash flow mismatch? I think that's where their fundraising, which we have actually seen the last 3-4 months of very frenetic fundraising that they've been doing, including divesting personal stakes or the family stakes to raise capital. I think that's a clear, good sign that they're showing, saying that they are invested in these businesses and they're wanting to scale them.
All right. On Hindenburg specifically, interesting takeaway from Srinath. Krishna is also joining us here in the newsroom. Krishna, appreciate you taking time out. I think it's interesting, and Srinath pointed out, and with respect to the Hindenburg Research report, Gautam Adani once again saying that this was in fact a myriad of misinformation. All of this has been proven now that it was wrong and misinformation. That may not be true because the expert committee did not give a clean chit to Adani and SEBI is still investigating the matter.
Right, that could be the case, but we're talking about a strong response from the man himself at the annual general meeting of the Adani Group, and in that there were 2 things. One was very clear that they call this an attack based on misinformation and based on transactions between the years of 2004 and 2015, all of which was settled by the authorities, is the statement that the Adani Group has made. From that perspective, they're saying that, like, going back and picking up these transactions and misconstruing things out of it. That's the defense that the Adani Group has put up as part of the annual general meeting statement that Gautam Adani himself has made. The other thing is that Adani Group is also impressed upon the crucial projects that it's involved in, across the board, which helps in building India, which helps in nation building. Literally, Adani ports. Adani, you're talking about airports. You can go on and on. There's transmission, power, all of these businesses doing very well. Also mentioned by him, saying the fact, see, the health of these businesses are very well, which means that we can take on more projects. Everything from renewable energy to power, across the board power and transmission of that energy. Adani Group is involved in, from the creation of the power to transmission of the power, creation of airports to creation of ports. In fact, the largest one in the world for, in Virinjam in Kerala, and also a port in Colombo. So, Adani Group making a statement that, look, these were transactions and these were dealings of a particular time and place, which were clarified by the authorities. And now we're living in 2023, in which Adani Group is extremely involved in the crucial process of building India, and things like India adding $1 trillion to its value every 18 months, to its economy every 18 months. That's the statement that Adani also made as part of the annual general meeting. So in that sense, he sort of put these parallels out there to say the fact that the entire Hindenburg report relates to a specific thing, and also he's questioned the timing of it all. It was just before their the big FPO. So he's like, look at what they're doing. They're picking up something from a particular time and place, doing it one day before the FPO.
So attesting a motive to it. Yeah,
definitely attesting a motive to it. And at the same time, as things stand today, Shweta, the one thing that we remember is that Adani stocks are up over 150%. Since the lows that they hit, when Hindenburg report came out. Adani Enterprises, for example, is up 140% as of today. Other Adani Group stocks are up anywhere between 6 to 130%. So, Adani stocks are back almost back to where they were before the Hindenburg report came. And yes, there is that clarification from the SEBI report that is yet to be awaited, because that investigation is still going on as we continue. But Adani Group also making it clear that, look, we are pushing ahead. We have multiple businesses. In fact, they just got into the media business as well. So Gautam Adani also talking about NDTV and the plans that they have for NDTV as well. So in that sense, Adani Group putting up first. I mean, let's face it, it's the first time Gautam Adani has spoken in public, addressing the Hindenburg allegation. So that in itself, is a matter of concern.
All right. So Gautam Adani, of course, clarifying that this is a piece of misinformation. May not partly be true, because, as Krishna rightly said, although Adani is writing a growth story and a story that is similar to what we are seeing in India, in a sense, there's a consonance between India's growth story and Adani Group's growth story. And I want to bring this point to you, Srinath, on results specifically. And this is very interesting. Gautam Adani also pointed out that the operational and financial results of the Adani Group point to a fact that despite all the allegations, the group stands strong. And I'm looking at some of the numbers here. Total EBITDA grew 36%, total income grew 85%, and total PAT grew 82% for financial year 22-23. Would it therefore be right to say that despite all the initial jitters in the market and the allegations, companies' financials and books continue to stand strong?
See, I think I would probably rephrase that question not about company financials and books. I would rephrase it as company's business. The books is what the auditors have to answer, and that's where the governance comes in. But from the business point of view, they are in a very, very strong wicket, and which is what I mentioned earlier. It is all about cash flows, of how they're going to accrue cash flows in each of these businesses. The business fundamentals are very, very strong. In fact, we have seen earlier on some of their, like ports, for example, Adani Ports, the bankers have expressed deep confidence that all their sales receivables are kind of covering their loans, and which is why they're not worried about Adani. And I think these are good, strong fundamentals. So that's a true story. But coming back to what Krishna tried to speak about nationalism, you don't actually cover a company's growth story with nationalism. I mean, companies are about fundamentals. Companies are all about governance. So one aspect is true that they are in a growth sector. They're very, very large. But we can't ever brush off a question, are they too large to fail? I mean, corporate history has shown a lot of companies which have been large to fail. Kind of, you just need one thing that unwinds everything. So here, I'm just hoping that they build a very, very credible governance structure as they go forward. Not just brush it aside as it's a short seller. Come on, let's face it, in the capitalist world, short sellers also do a world of good. And more importantly, critically to the Indian market, Indian market is predominantly dominated by promoter-led entities, not just listed, even unlisted family offices. they're more than comfortable with the concept of short selling. Are you telling me that Indian families don't understand short selling, that they've never not used it against their own competitors, not just in the,
Do you know,
let's say, IPO?
Srinath, my concern is not so much with short selling. My concern is with the fact that the timing of that report.
I mean, short sellers use timing because that's where they benefit. So they're taking a call.
You
they're
know,
taking
the
a bet
timing
on
of the
it,
report,
and
no, I couldn't complete, Srinath. Sorry, the timing of the report, and not so much just as the timing of the report, but also the fact that the allegations that were raised were with respect to stock manipulation, pulling largest con in corporate history. Some of those, pointers I quoted in my introduction. All of those are serious allegations. All of those are not just simple allegations. It's not just short selling that we have a problem with. It's the allegations that were leveled. And I partly agree with you where you said that none of these allegations have been cleared so far. So Adani Group has not been cleared of any allegations. However, at the same time, nothing substantially out there to say that these allegations are true or demand any merit. On the other hand, what we are looking at are great numbers coming in by the way of operations.
so that's true. I mean, the business operations have been phenomenal. I think each of these businesses are robust and will continue growing. But the larger aspect of if you're a large entity and almost claiming to represent India, because every time there's a question mark, we keep saying we are an Indian company, Indian company. The onus is on them to actually prove much larger, cleaner governance structure. And here, I think what would help is once the SEBI inquiry is done and dusted, if they say this is a clean sheet, I think that's when it is done. Until then, it is not done yet.
All right, we also have another guest, Sriram Subramaniam, joining us at this point in time. Sriram, appreciate you taking time out. I think you know what the discussion is about by now and you've been listening in. I think some very interesting points put forth by my colleague Krishna, who's joined me here in the newsroom, as well as Srinath. Essentially, what we are discussing today is not whether Adani Group and the charges that were levied on Adani Group were true or false. We don't know. We are nobody to give them a clean sheet or say that there was an agenda or there was a foreign force. And I mean, we don't want to go into speculation in any way or kind. But what I'm looking at is Adani coming out strongly against Hindenburg today, saying, and some of this is partly true, some of it is not true, saying that there was what appears to be a barrage of misinformation, and as a result of which, although the market capitalization of Adani Group tumbled, although Adani also tumbled off the rich list, we are firmly back and we are on firm footing. Would you agree with that?
I would have Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and CPM leader Sitaram Yechury, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal ji, Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Singh Mann ji,